Yo, what up? Today, we're reacting to the step-by-step rebrand that saved IShowSpeed by Roy Bowles. And this is gonna be an interesting video. The way IShowSpeed pivoted, man, it must be studied. Okay, let's do it. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's get into it.
So just 3 short years ago, IShowSpeed was finished. He was banned from Twitch for crazy threats, banned from Valorant for screaming misogynistic rants at female players that led to Sky Sports publicly cutting ties with him, to then literally setting his bedroom on fire with Pikachu fireworks. Back then, it wasn't even just a controversy. We all thought that this was career suicide. But if we fast forward to today, he has 44 million subscribers, breaking streaming records left and right with over 1 million concurrent viewers. Governments are crowning him their mayor. WWE is putting him in the Royal Rumble. He's became an international superstar, and he finally met his idol, Ronaldo. But here's what
congratulations, bro.
He never stepped away. He never did the apology tour. He never hired a crisis management firm, and most of his apologies were half-hearted at best. So how did a multi-platform band, universally hated 16-year-old become the most influential creator of 2025? The answer involves an international sport, a growth narrative, and a rebrand so subtle that even Speed himself and 90% of his fan base didn't realize he was doing it. What we're about to go through isn't just how IShowSpeed saved his career. It's a masterclass in how your redemption arc doesn't need to be strategic, but rather just leaning into your natural obsessions. This is how you rebuild a destroyed brand without anyone noticing that you're doing it. So welcome back, y'all. This is a video I always wanted to make, talking about how this 20-year-old kid is on top of the world after nearly destroying his empire before it was even fully built. I'm breaking this video into 5 acts: the fall, the turning point, the international pivot, the execution, and the lessons that we can take away from IShowSpeed's masterclass and rebranding. If you're new here, my name is Roy, and I study personal brands for a living so that you can take the tactics of the world's best and apply them to your own brand or business. So with all that out the way, let's get right into the step-by-step
Let's get it.
Saved IShowSpeed. So as we go throughout this video, one thing you're going to notice about Speed is that he's went from a rolling controversy bank to now what we know as a cultural icon and an international superstar. And he essentially went from a rage-baiting streamer into the most influential content creator of 2025. And the great thing about Speed is that his journey or redemption arc has involved a growth narrative, redemption obviously, resilience, and realignment with his brand. Now for Speed, he obviously had humble beginnings. In the early days, he was known as Darren Watkins Jr. He then took on the persona of IShowSpeed, and he created his first YouTube channel in March 21st of 2016, but he didn't even upload his first video until December of 2017, which was the next year. His initial content focused on NBA 2K and Fortnite gameplay, struggling to find an audience in an oversaturated gaming landscape. He did get some traction when his clips started getting pushed on TikTok due to his erratic and violent behavior towards video games, other players, his chat, and obviously his camera or desk. And if I had to describe his personality type, I would definitely say it's highly energetic, reactionary, and very expressive. And I love this photo of him remaking this childhood photo with some of his childhood friends.
Still rising 10 years later. Man, this guy's the GOAT, bro. IShowSpeed.
Back in the day, just kind of adding to that relatability with his brand. One thing I do want to note is that when he first started streaming, he was only averaging around 2 viewers back in 2017, so he did not have this massive overnight success. We did see that number jump to 10 average viewers by June of 2020, but there were obviously years in between there where he wasn't really having that much success. Another part of Speed's background that I feel is important to cover is that while he was working as a food server at a nursing home, Speed faced an ultimatum from his mother to either quit streaming or leave her home. He obviously chose streaming and moved in with his father to pursue his lifelong dream, despite his minimal success up until that point. So if you're one of those people that are on the grind right now and don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, even the world's biggest streamers, creators, artists, a lot of them have overnight successes, and Speed is definitely an example of that. Now, real quick, if you like this presentation and you want to get access to it, hit the first link in the description. I'll send you over a URL for you to access it. Then you can come through here and read it for yourself or click on any of the relevant links. But with that, I'm gonna get right back to the video. So one thing I want to say before we get into Speed's controversies is that obviously these happened a couple of years ago. He was around 16, 17, sometimes even 15 years old when some of these controversies came up. But if we're trying to understand the step-by-step rebrand of IShowSpeed, we need to understand where he came from. So I'm not trying to dig up old things here or put any of his past things on blast, but these moments in his career are very important to how he reestablished himself as the cultural icon, international superstar that we know of him today as. So the first major controversy of Speed that I remember, this is how I even came across Speed in the first place, was this old Ash Cash and Aiden Ross clip where during one of Aiden Ross's
I remember this one.
He made some crazy ass comments and basically essentially sexually harassed the participant, who is Ash Cash.
If we're the last 2 people on Earth and we had to reproduce, continue, would you reproduce with me?
No, because that means our kids will have to intertwine, and then their kids. No.
Who gonna stop me?
I will.
Who's gonna stop me?
I will.
If we the last two people on earth, who gonna stop me?
Gee.
You're not stopping me. If we the last two people on earth, who gonna stop me?
Yeah. Come on.
So that incident did result in an immediate and permanent ban from Twitch for sexual coercion or intimidation, and this marked the beginning of a cascade of controversies that would nearly derail his career before it even truly began. The ban removed him from one of the largest streaming platforms, forcing him to rely entirely on YouTube for his success, and we will definitely revisit this because this was a little bit of a blessing in a disguise. So that moves me right onto his Riot Games or his Valorant clip where he received another ban, where on April 6th an old Valorant clip resurfaced showing Speed telling a female to get the fuck off the fucking game and do your husband's dishes, and the clip went viral across all the gaming communities, drawing a widespread condemnation of its blatant sexism and misogyny. And this is another example of Speed kind of playing it up for the camera and losing his mind on someone, and I'm going to play that clip real quick to give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
This streamer was permanently banned for being toxic.
Calm down.
Damn, bro, shut up, bro. I know how to play this game. I'm not a noob, all right? God damn. What? What? Is a
Whoa,
female talking to me?
whoa.
No, am I tripping? Am I tripping? Oh, wait, time out. Is a female talking to me right now? Is a female talking to me? Get off the game and do your husband dishes.
After this clip went viral, Riot staff said they perma-banned this player from Valorant and all Riot games.
So that clip there would actually lead the Riot Games producer Sarah to permanently ban him from all Riot Game titles, including Valorant and League of Legends, which are obviously two massively popular competitive games. So already we're off to a pretty rough start in terms of Speed's career and trajectory at this moment. At this point, this is when the controversies kind of multiply. He's had a series of other multiple controversies come along where he was playing a game online and got scared and just essentially screamed out something crazy and ridiculous.
I like 15-year-old girls.
I do want to say that clip, I believe, was when he was around 15 or 16 years old. And then how I mentioned in the intro where he was finally starting to get traction in the soccer world and the international world. And then Sky Sports was made aware of the old Valorant clip where they essentially just cut all ties with him because of those misogynistic comments. And that really marked his first major mainstream media rejection. And then on top of all this, he had that viral moment in his bedroom where he set off the Pikachu fireworks, almost setting his house on fire. Then that leads me into the Minecraft clip where he was basically streaming to 96,000 viewers, a ton of them kids. And he was essentially getting top on Minecraft. I didn't even know you could do that. But then in August of 2022, he was swatted during a live stream and handcuffed by police, which isn't really on him, but it just shows you how chaotic his chat and his audience are. And then a big one in November of 2022, so a couple months later, he was faced accusations of a cryptocurrency pump and dump scheme that further damaged his already very controversial reputation. And we see here that Moist Critical made a video. It had 7 million views. And we also had CoffeeZilla make a video with 12 million views, kind of exposing this whole cryptocurrency scam. So one thing's for sure is that we know Speed is not a stranger to controversy, and by late 2022 we thought Speed's career was ready for the decline, right? The damage was extensive. He got permabanned off Twitch at the time. He got banned from Riot Games. Sky Sports cut all ties with him. YouTube had given him multiple strikes on his platform, and there's a ton of stuff that I'm not even mentioning, like the whole IShowSpeed's thing, and like, you know, there's just a ton of stuff that I don't want to necessarily bring back, but just know Speed is no stranger to controversy. And if you ask me back in the day, gun to my head, did I see Speed becoming what he became today back in late 2022? I would have told you hell no. And the reason why I say that is because most creators would have given up at this point, right? But Speed was about to discover an unlikely path to redemption. We're about to get exactly into that redemption playbook, but before we do, I do want to give you a little bit of background on the changes that he made behind the scenes, or lack thereof, in his pursuit of this redemption arc. And that starts with the non-apology playbook, right? All of his apologies for the past controversies played out this way that I'm about to describe right now. Now, he had a very reactive way of apologizing. He was never really proactive in any of his apologies or any of his statements regarding things that happened in the past. Apologies like the Valorant clip were like kind of seen as half-hearted. He also made an apology to a Chinese spectator where he kind of mocked a little bit their language and some of their dialect. And on top of that, he never really publicly addressed the Ash Cash incident. From what I could find, he never really said sorry for that. And this all leads me into the deflection pattern where he used excuses about being too young, which at the time he was very young, 16 or 17 years old. He would also blame it on external factors like he was having a bad day, or he was receiving racist donations, or his chat was trying to turn up on him. And his apologies were often very short with a quick turnaround to just going back to what he was doing before, which was content creation. And we can see that here from a quote from Speed where he said, "I wasn't having a good day, but I don't want to make that an excuse. I'm wrong." And we would see Speed in 2023 and on kind of deflect away from these apologies altogether and not revisit any past controversies, which I'm a fan of. I think once you address it in the past, you might as well just keep it in the past and keep pushing. Unless you're asked about it, then you have to make a statement. And we see here at the time too, when he was going through these controversies, that a lot of people were giving him slack, saying that you're young, but with such a large audience, you carry a lot of influence. And we also have Aiden Ross saying you're good, bro, you're growing, you're maturing, you're realizing things, becoming a better person, etc., etc. And that was essentially the public sentiment as well. Now later on, he did a featured piece with Dazed, and even the person writing the article said it's hard to tell what Watkins really feels about the other incidents, talking about the past controversies, if the apologies come from a sense of regret or just straight up surrender. Now I want to talk about the Twitch ban that led him to be able to create on YouTube full time, and in my opinion, this forced him onto the winning platform. So from December 2021, he was banned from Twitch. He became YouTube's #1 streamer in 2022. So he went from 1 million to 10 million subscribers in 13 months, which is a 900% growth rate while he was banned on Twitch. YouTube obviously has some advantages over Twitch, and one of them being that Twitch revenue is really only during the live streams. Yes, I believe you can have VODs, but I think that they only last for around 30 or 60 days. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But YouTube, I think VODs stay on essentially until they're taken off, which is just passive income for Speed and his team. And then on top of that, it's a 70-30 split on YouTube versus Twitch's 50-50 split, which is obviously more money per view for Speed to be able to pour back into his streams. And then on top of that, I think that YouTube just has a bigger global reach than Twitch does, where you have 2 billion YouTube users versus 140 million on Twitch's, which is a 14x larger audience rate. And then YouTube's also great for phones, and it has a lot of translation features, which plays perfectly into Speed's IRL and travel content. I mean, just for example, his Indonesian stream had 1 million concurrent viewers. He was the first English streamer ever to do that. So right after his Twitch ban, where he streamed primarily on YouTube, he had 38.5 million hours watched in 2022, where he beat every other Twitch streamer, including Dr. Disrespect and Ludwig. And we see that graph here with Speed at the top, and then everybody else kind of on the same playing field, Dr. Disrespect and Ludwig here. But I love this quote from Speed where he said, YouTube is to Gen Z what television was for millennials and Gen X. Now, since then, the Twitch ban has been lifted,
making me feel old.
stayed primarily on YouTube as his main streaming platform. And I love that because the narrative online is that YouTube doesn't want to lose Speed. When so many people currently are on the Twitch wave and trying to ride that roller coaster, Speed is staying in his own lane and kind of paving out his own platform ecosystem. Now, it wouldn't be right if I talked about how Speed navigated over all these controversies and didn't talk about his team not one time. Now, one thing that surprised me was that Speed's team didn't really change all that much from his controversies to where he is right now. His core management remained unchanged. He's still getting managed by Mason Klein, who stayed as manager all the way dating back from 2021. And I love his management philosophy, where we have a quote from him and his team saying that what I think we've done well is find people that we are obsessed with, that we think are remarkably talented, and allow them to be and try to protect them. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of Speed's rebrand, where he had his unexpected pivot into international waters with his soccer or football transition. And this all happened organically when in June of 2022, a fan donated asking him his favorite soccer player. And I'll just play the clip here with Speed's response.
Bradley donated £1.79 through Super Chat. What soccer football team do you support?
Cristiano Ronaldo, Suey.
Suey.
Bro.
Now, little did we know that this obsession with Ronaldo would change everything for Speed. And here's the timeline of events that happened right after that donation. So Speed's reply actually went viral as a meme. He would then go on to watch his first soccer match ever with the Champions League final. He then released a song called Ronaldo 5.5 months before the World Cup started. We see here that song has 37 million plays, so it was actually pretty big at the time. He then went on to drop a World Cup song, which was 16 days before the tournament started, and that one's even bigger, sitting at around 190 million views. And all this really happened 6 months before the first match in the World Cup. So he really caught the wave as the World Cup was starting to get talked about more and more and more in the States. He kind of rode that wave into relevancy and like kind of trend jacked a little bit. His World Cup song has 167 million views. Like I talked about, he charted in 6 countries. It was used 1 million plus times on TikTok shorts and reels. And it was used 1 million plus times on TikTok shorts and reels. And it became essentially like the soundtrack of the tournament online, like on an Instagram, TikTok basis. And the great thing about this whole international pivot and this whole football soccer movement that Speed went under was that he could have pivoted back to gaming, which he definitely does. He still games and whatnot, but he never really left soccer or football after this massive blow up. It still is his prominent identity through 2025, through today. He still relies heavily on sports, on soccer, on football, whatever you want to call it. He still relies heavily on that. Now, all this led to him meeting his hero, which was another viral moment. 25 million views here where he finally met Ronaldo. So Speed met Ronaldo in Lisbon after Portugal's 3-0 win over Bosnia. Speed fell to his knees and showed Ronaldo his tattoo tattoo of the player celebration and was obviously very visibly emotional. To me, in my eyes, this showed a crescendo or an evolution for the audience and Speed himself. Hard work, a burning desire, and staying busy can get you very far in life. And this moment for the audience and for Speed kind of showed us that, like, if you just work hard, you talk things into existence, shit will start to come back for you. And this moment was obviously viral and massive online, where he had 150 million likes on X, 26 million likes on TikTok. And in August of 2023, he hit 20 million subscribers just a couple of days or weeks after this. And speaking with all that, this has really led him into his content transformation, where he has officially, in my opinion, found his lane. And his content transformation is essentially the international travel superstar. Everywhere he goes on an international scale, it's just massive. People are flooding the streets, trying to go up to him, trying to talk to him, trying to get in on the stream. And we see that with his numbers here, his viewership comparison between South America, Southeast Asia, and his Euro trip. You can see the stats on the screen here. He streamed for 17 days in South America. He streamed 15 days in Southeast Asia and 33 days in his Europe or his Euro tour. And all of these streams were massive, right? 6 million hours watched on the Euro tour, 10 million on the Southeast Asia tour, and around 5 million on the South America tour. And the timeline of that whole event was that he had Europe in 2022, Southeast Asia in 2023, and he just did an Australia tour in 2024, which was last year. You see some of these numbers for these VODs with the Euro tour doing 3 million, 6 million in Norway, 7 million views in Singapore, 8 million in the Philippines, 25 million in Indonesia. That was where he set that record for 1 million concurrent viewers. I mean, there's no denying just how big of an international superstar Speed is. And I found a great article kind of displaying how Speed has become a tourism influencer and how countries are paying top dollar to ensure that they're on Speed's itinerary. For example, during Speed's stop in Turkey, the creator drew roughly 437,000 concurrent viewers on YouTube and 48,000 on Twitch, making him the most watched live stream creator simultaneously on both platforms. Places like Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia have paid him roughly 35,000 each stop. And these payments, which are obviously taxpayer funds, have gone through countries' official tourism offices. So these countries are paying big bucks for Speed and his team to come through and kind of illuminate just how much their cities and their countries have to offer. So going back to that timeline, the first Euro tour gave him a sense of what his new content would look like. And once he saw that that was a hit, he was off to the races. And again, I want to go back to a lot of the times people quit before they find what content actually works for them and their audience. What I need people to understand is that you need to keep iterating until you find something that sticks, and then again, double down. If you want to learn more about doubling down, check out the Kai Cenat personal brand video that I just did last video. And don't get me wrong, this was not no simple undertaking. He went from a bedroom streamer to becoming a mobile broadcast empire, where we see his original setup here with this old ass HP laptop and this like 30-inch TV that he was streaming off of, probably around 300, 500 bucks setup, to where now he has his cameraman. I believe that this is Slips, where he has a 100K home studio at his house, but he has a 200K plus mobile IRL setup with these TVU backpacks, Starlink, and a production bus, multiple people on his production team. But this is a very broad estimate, but when he started off with that $300 to $500 setup, he now has around 200, 300, 400,000 in equipment or just production cost period. I'm sure it's a way higher number than that, which is a 600x increase in production investment. And the reason why I'm putting this here is because some people think that they need this initial 300,000 to get set up with IRL streaming or whatever it is. Like, nah, just at the end of the day, whatever it is that you got on hand to use to get started, that's what you should be using. When Speed was streaming from a fucking HP laptop, $200, $300 laptop, you think that he was sitting here saying, damn, bro, I ain't got 300 bands to start some. No, he didn't. He just got ahead and went going. And now this brings me to his US tour, which literally just happened a few months ago from the time of this recording. I have another article here that's talking about kind of how Speed has taken on this touring and used it as a growth hack, where the article goes on to say streaming creator Darren, or IShowSpeed, is 11 days into his 24-hour a day, 35-day stream across America, and he's averaging around 5 million viewers per day on YouTube and 60K views on Twitch. Speed has gained 4.9 million views and 400K concurrent viewers during his tour through Latin America in January. With tours through China, Southeast Asia, and Europe under his belt, Speed is making a compelling case for daily events as a growth leveler. And Speed Does America's tour is represented one of the most ambitious streaming projects ever attempted, with a 35-day, 24/7 live stream touring 25 states across America. And this is obviously leading to a ton of chaos, where people are swarming him by the thousands at every stop that he goes to. He hit over 800,000 concurrent viewers during a spontaneous basketball game in New York City, where he challenged random locals. This all culminated into his grand finale, where he was at the LA Memorial Coliseum with Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian. And as a sum up of the whole US tour, he had 840 hours streamed and across all platforms had 400 million plus views. And now in 2025, Speed is obviously recognized as one of, if not the GOAT. He's won Streamer of the Year for Best IRL Streamer and Best International Streamer at the 2024 awards. He raced an Olympic sprinter in Noah Lyles. This post here got 4 million likes. No, he didn't win, but this just kind of shows you how much weight and how much clout that Speed carries now to be able to race an Olympic sprinter. And back in November 2024, Complex Networks ranked him as the #1 in the best streamers right now, which is a stunning reversal from his controversial past just 2 years earlier. And in January 2025, he was declared an honorary mayor of Lima,
RDC
Peru for 1 hour and was named ambassador of Lima, again further making his evolution into the cultural international ambassador status for all these different countries and all these different cultures. And one thing that stayed consistent with Speed throughout this whole journey, from the controversies all the way up to his point now, kind of maturing into the young adult that he is now, is his authenticity. He even shared that same sentiment on stage with Mr. Beast, and I'll play that clip for y'all now.
As a 15-year-old kid, you know, I was always obsessed with streaming, and I always had this character to me, these tweaks. I was always athletic. I was funny, that and third. So I started streaming. And once I started streaming, you know, I felt like what I always kept something like towards me. I always like kept the authenticity. I always put authenticity over virality, because when you stay to yourself and stay grounded to yourself, you can get way more farther, and your mental is way better, you know, once you just stay true to yourself. So at streaming, as I just kept going, kept growing, you know, I just stayed true to myself, you know.
100%.
Grew as a person, grew as a individual, and I'm here now, you know. So it's great to be here, talking about here at Joy Forum, you know.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, the way he was saying authenticity was but that's the reason why we love Speeds, because it's authentic. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I won't lie, that shit is actually hilarious. So now, what's some of the lessons that we could take away from Speed's journey? And to me, it's all about him finding his lane and his new audience. So Speed's soccer fandom or football fandom attracted a global non-gaming first audience, unfamiliar with his controversial past. So by pivoting to soccer during the World Cup, he accessed billions of fans who had never heard of his gaming controversies. This audience diversification, insulated from his past mistakes, allowed him to rebuild his brand with a clean slate among sports fans worldwide. So finding a completely different demographic is a major key to overcoming a controversial past. In other words, don't let your past become your future. If you need to find a whole new audience or a whole new lane, definitely rebrand yourself in that way to align yourself with what you want to become in the future. And one thing I want to talk about that I don't hear a lot of people talk about is the personal brand archetype of Speed. He is definitely the jester archetype, which we see right here on the brand archetype wheel. He's playful, fun-loving, pleasurable.
I wonder which one am I? Yeah, I would be maybe caregiver. No, innocent. I don't know. Which one are you guys? Yeah, I think I'm you. So yeah.
Positive, humorous, optimistic, and very inclusive, and he fits perfectly into that entertainment brand archetype. And take a second to kind of look through some of these and find out which one you are. And this brand archetype, the jester archetype, gives him a permission to fail, to be foolish, to be real. The jester archetype creates permission for audiences to experience joy without judgment. When Speed fails during streams, screams in horror games, or shows unfiltered emotion, he activates that jester archetype pattern in viewers' collective unconscious, building parasocial bonds that transcend regular logic. And research shows that 95% of purchasing decisions happen subconsciously where these archetypes operate. Speed's authentic embodiment of the jester creates instinctive connection, and he's not just performing a character, he is the character that people come for. And the jester archetype is psychologically powerful because it provides permission for audiences to experience joy without judgment. And I love this quote from Speed where it says, "People think it's a character, but nah, it's part of me. It's just who I am. I'm an entertaining, crazy, funny guy." And I think that's a great place to stop with the step-by-step rebrand of IShowSpeed. He's had one of the craziest comebacks in the modern content creation space, and it's really sky's the limit in terms of where Speed will grow and evolve into over the next couple years. But there's no denying that at this point he is an international superstar. So if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. Drop in the comments who y'all want me to talk about next, or what personal brands you want me to go over in the next video. And with that, I'm out. I'm gonna see y'all on the next one.
Yo, well, yo, W video. Wow, that is interesting. Shout out to Roy Bowles. That was a fantastic video, bro. Yeah, I feel inspired. Look, I'm still using my earphones for mic and I'm using my laptop as a camera. So yeah, I'm also starting, man, but I'm inspired. My goal is to reach like 100 subs. I got about like 92 subscribers, so my goal is like to reach 100. So yo, can you help me? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you for watching. Ciao, ciao.